Game of the Year 2024 in middle of January 2025, broadcasting from Hoth, I think, Buffalo, New York. You may know it as. Also, Nintendo Switch 2, the worst kept secret in gaming. It's here, folks. What is going on, everybody? Hopefully you are somewhere warm no matter where you are watching from. Oh, my goodness gracious. Buffalo, New York is where John and I are. And we are talking, thankfully, video games, a little bit about beverages, and a few other shenanigans, I'm sure. I'm Josiah Leroy. With me today, my co-host, John Fick. John, you staying warm on this this frigid night?
Joe, I hate to tell you, it's so hot up here. It is really, really warm in this room. We cranked the heat for Jack because he's sleeping in the room across from me. So we want to make sure he's comfortable. It's slightly uncomfortably warm for me. And I feel really bad saying that because I know you are in a room with no heat right now. Can we actually see your breath? Give me a little. No, I didn't see it. Okay,
you can probably hear it.
You're fine.
One might say you're in a hot cooler, John.
A hot cooler.
I feel good. I got the space heater. I was able to turn this on maybe about 40 minutes ago to warm up the room here. But yeah, this is essentially an add-on room that was built over our garage that just does not have heating. And in the summer, it's got all the heat it needs.
It's got too much heat. We've done 12-hour live streams in that room with the middle of summer.
My favorite was maybe that first one that we did for the 11 day. In this very corner is where we had the recliner, and it was in the dead hour for us. It was maybe about 5 or 6 o'clock. But I remember looking over and just checking on John, being like, "Hey, buddy, you okay?" And you were like, "Not doing too good."
It's hot, dude.
It was hot up here.
So hot.
We were dehydrated. We had a lot of bad food for us, candy, chicken wings, all that stuff.
Plus all the equipment.
I mean,
it's hot in general with a room with no air conditioning, but we had all the equipment running. We've got PCs doing streams. We've got Xboxes and PlayStations. We're doing a 12-hour video game stream. It was a warm room.
We got Xbox fridges. Like, oh my gosh, it was wild. But anyway, here we are with Busy Sticks. So excited to talk video games again. John, before we talk about what was our favorite for 2024, we'll have a little bit of a recap on that. But what is about to be in our system right now? Oh, hey, buddy boy.
Is that Buddy or Lindy?
That's Buddy.
Go away. I'm just a Lindy homer, man. Ever since Buddy came around,
you're
Lindy
an OG,
I'm an OG. I have too much respect for Lindy to show any love for Buddy, to be honest. I'm just kidding. Buddy's great. What's about to be in our system? My favorite segment here. Let's have a beverage. Let's talk games. I think I've done this one before. It's one of my favorite beers of all time. It only comes around every so often, and the only time I get it nowadays is when my lovely wife, she goes grocery shopping every Friday, and if she calls me at 4 o'clock on a Friday, I know it's for one reason and one reason only. She found Heady Topper, my favorite beer of all time. She found it at Wegmans, and she's calling to confirm how many 4-packs I want. That's the only reason she will ever call me from Wegmans. And it's like once every 3 to 4 months, if that. Maybe it's like twice. It's honestly probably closer to twice a year where our Wegmans actually gets Heady Topper. So I get that call. I'm excited. We got a couple 4-packs. So Heady Topper doesn't come here often. I don't know what the distribution's like. I don't know if somebody from Wegmans has to literally drive out to Vermont to pick these up. I don't know. I don't care. I got a couple cans. I'm happy. Again, I think I've done it once on the show. We try not to repeat, but it's a special beer.
Well, it definitely makes sense that you are repeating that in this case. I got to say, Wegmans, they typically do a good job with their distribution. They find, I wouldn't say it's super rare, but they're usually finding some good stuff that you wouldn't find at other stores in the area.
For sure.
Definitely not other grocery stores. So
right.
That's always a good thing to hear. For me, I'm going with man, I love Hayburner. I think that's a good classic Western New York IPA, as long as you don't find it, of course, in a hot cooler, as you said. But variations of the Hayburner are kind of all the rage, I would say, in the last 2 or 3 years. This one I've got here is Space Donkey. I really like this one a lot. That is a Hayburner with Galaxy hops. What do I got for a percentage on this? 6.8. So nothing crazy, but you've got a good number there to enjoy without going over edge. These are pretty fresh, so I'll take these all day long, and I think they hit just right. So that's awesome. What I'm going with tonight.
I did go with a gaming glass. You can't tell. You can never really see it, but this is the Last of Us glass. It's got like a giraffe on there, and it says The Last of Us, but I know. I'll always know.
Cheers, brother. That very much. Cheers, my man. I've got Baby Yoda and Baby Maul on my glass.
Can't beat that.
Busy Sticks beers just hit differently.
They do. It's special, man. It's always like, I always try to plan throughout the week. Like, all right, which nights am I going to have a beer? Like, I'm not trying to be drinking every night. You got to be responsible, right? But every time we record, I'm like, oh, I'm excited to save one of those beers for Busy Sticks.
That's very true. And I don't know if you find this too, John, but we did our fantasy video games draft last week. I get such a high after recording. That's it, just from recording, just from talking games with you, with the boys last week, the rest of the Geekiverse. Afterwards, I'm hyped, I'm amped. I had fun, I had a good time usually, so I usually will celebrate with a beverage, and
100%.
that usually ends up being a beer.
100%. I'll always crack another. It's just, yeah, we're excited. We had a good time. We have that kind of energy. You can't go to sleep right after that.
No, it's very true. It's like, I liken it to, if anyone, we're dads in our 30s here, so if we're playing any sports, it's interesting nowadays. But like hockey, when I was playing ice hockey even last year, even though you're exhausted and just kind of like out of shape, you come home on such a high because of the adrenaline and all of it. Like it takes a while to kind of calm down.
For sure.
And I'm not saying that that's always the way to do it, but every once in a while that can help take the edge off. So
no doubt.
We'll get to our next segment here, Platinum Pursuit. So I don't have any new Platinums to really report. I mean, it's been a while since we've done a regular Busy Stick, so we could go back and say a lot. I mean, Astrobot for both of us, Last of Us
Part 2 for both of us, right?
Yep. Rashawn got me excited because I saw his pop about a week after us, but it was just a retread, an update of his PS4 version of Last of Us Part 2. So,
which is fair. It's respectable. I've done it for Spider-Man original. I've done it for Ghost of Tsushima. Oddly enough, with Ghost of Tsushima, while we're talking about Platinums, I downloaded the PS5 version of Ghost of Tsushima because it was just part of PlayStation Plus that month. I'm like, okay, I'll get it on there. I'll see how it looks. Oh, wait, let's import my save. Let's get my second Platinum. There was one trophy that didn't pop, and I forget what it was, but it was like apply a piece of gear, something weird like that, which I certainly had for the PS4 version because I had already, obviously had that Platinum, but that trophy just didn't pop. So I spent like a good 30 minutes trying to figure out how to get that last trophy. So I did earn the second Ghost of Tsushima one a little bit.
I can't help but wonder if they did that on purpose, Did
that happen to you? Did you retread that or no?
So I have not Platinum the PS4 version of that at all.
Oh my gosh, what are we doing here?
I know. I've got a Platinum Pursuit list. That is moved into the number 1 spot, knowing that there's a good chance we're getting Ghost of Yotei later this year. So this is my time to redo that on PS5.
It's not difficult, and it's very Spider-Man-esque. It's just like you know how all the side stuff works. You understand the dynamic of all the side stuff in that game. It's just do it all. Let's just do all the shrines, follow all the foxes. Like there's nothing. Oh, we got both dogs up there.
We got them both now,
dude. Buddy heard me going Team Lindy, and he's like, nah, not in my house. Not my house. I'm the bigger dog, and I'll show you.
Lindy came right up. He basically, he's on. Okay, guys, there's no room for this. John, you know the size of this desk. This is not going to end well.
There's wires under there.
There's wires.
Yeah, we're losing Joe soon. It's not going to be his internet problems anymore. The dog's
It's not going to be the internet.
The dog's
the Lindy rough claws here. Well, yeah, I've heard that with Ghost, and I'm surprised I never did that the first go round, John. I think that just came out a few months before the PS5 did when it originally dropped in 2020, and I just kind of moved on.
That was a big year. We had The Last of Us that year. We had Miles Morales. We had 3 banger first party Sony games. Like what a year 2020 was.
Plus Astro's Playroom, which is a small game but one of my favorites. Just saying, we had a lot going on that year. 100%. What I would say is for Ghost, I picked up the PS5 version of that when it dropped in 2021. It was only a year after, and I think I did the first third of the game. I am going to just restart it. I can't get enough of it. It is one of my favorite games of all time. That IP is definitely creeping up the list, and I'm sure Ghost of Yotei will help that with me. But for current Platinum Pursuit, the one that I'm going after Life is Strange. They force you to do a full second playthrough for that one, not like True Colors, which is always a turnoff for me, but it's short and I'm already a good chunk through it. I haven't picked it up since Thanksgiving, but anyway, you may see the dogs fly by there in the corner of the screen. I am currently going through Horizon Zero Dawn remastered on PS5.
Okay.
That's a series I just tend to love with each time I replay it, whether it's the first or the second game in Forbidden West, I just enjoy it more and more. But it's funny, John. I feel like we almost had like, I wouldn't say the opposite trajectory of it, but you were the Horizon guy at first, and once Forbidden West hit, like I was all in. When most people, I think they liked it, but not as much as the first game. So I've really been enjoying that series, and Daisy and I have been playing Lego Horizon Adventures, which it's fun. It's a classic 7 out of 10 game. That's an IGN special right there. It's fine. It doesn't reinvent the formula, but it doesn't have to. I just love that IP is starting to get some love past just Sony, even though it's not really selling very well.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, you need that every once in a while. You need that like quick little 7 out of 10, something that you don't feel like overly committed to playing every night. Something, I mean, within your case, something you can play with Daisy. Like that's super cool.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So that's where I'm at currently with my pursuit. Is there anything you're going after for Platinum right now?
Platinum wise, no. Like you said, we haven't talked since we've played Astrobot, and obviously we both platinum that. I did the Last of Us Part 2 platinum. Next on my list is for sure The Last of Us Part 1. I want to make sure I think to both of us, it's like if you love a game so much, you just want to kind of pay it that respect. You want to get that platinum. It just feels good if you're ride or die for a game. It just feels good to lock in that platinum. And I was never going to do that with The Last of Us on PS4 just because of the online stuff. As much as I enjoyed, what's it called? Factions. I had fun with factions here and there, but I wasn't playing 50 or 100 or whatever matches to get the factions trophies. So I'm glad that The Last of Us Part 1 has a much easier and more obtainable list for single player gamers. So that's next on the list. I just don't know where it fits in priority wise. But yeah, we'll see. Slow start to the year.
That was a pleasant surprise when they dropped Part 1 on PS5, that it was just a much more enjoyable, attainable trophy list without beating yourself over the head. I'd say that, obviously it took inspiration for the roadmap they had for Part 2. But I tell you, John, we're really a few months out from a season 2 of The Last of Us. Dude. So, who knows? Maybe it's time to ramp up there, I think
that's a good idea. Yeah, I'll get myself back in the mood for The Last of Us, play the first game, and then the payoff to replaying the first game is to watch season 2 of the show. Pretty cool. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, could be. Moving on to show and tell. We've got obviously a lot to catch up on there, but I've got a nice little one. Okay. So in the apartment we've got downstairs, it's so funny. I forgot totally that we had this, but I've got a magnet on the fridge. It's something that Lauren and I got when we were vacationing in like Tennessee, like 10 years ago. It was so random. It was at this shop, but it is a Batman Arkham City magnet. And John, you probably seen it on my fridge at one point or another, but it says, "Obey order, to submit is to survive," which is kind of like one of the taglines of the video game from 2011. I consider this the best game of all time. It's my favorite video game of all time. But I love that it had promotional artwork that was basically on a magnet for it. I don't buy magnets typically. It's not something like we've got 100 on our fridge or anything, but this is one that has come with us across 2 or 3 moves now. That's cool. But just, it's special.
So our fridge is like true stainless steel in the front, so magnets don't work. It's annoying. We have cool magnets. We can't use them. We have to put them on the side of the fridge, and our fridge perfectly fits in a nook where you can't see the sides of the fridge. So magnets are not a thing for us. Joe, you said you got that when you were vacationing where?
Tennessee. It would have been 2015.
Joe, you're the only 10 I see.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Love it.
So yeah, we haven't done show and tell. We haven't done busy sticks in a while. We usually talk about the hiatuses. We kind of skipped over that spiel because we were just back at it. We're here. We're having fun. But a lot has happened since the last time we've recorded this episode or an episode of the show. We got to mention the 30th anniversary PlayStation stuff, dude. How cool was that line of products? We got what we wanted. Besides, I think we all probably would have gone for that PS5 Pro if we could have locked one in. It's crazy expensive and limited as it was, but I got everything else I wanted. So I will show off the Pro controller. The DualSense Edge. The case itself is the reason that I did not return / sell this. Just the case. I really don't need the DualSense Edge. It's really cool. It's obviously more premium. I'm not using the paddles on the back. I don't really care for the extra software features. This case, this is a hard plastic. It is obviously themed for the PS1, the 30th anniversary. It's just so sick. I love this case. And of course, the controller. Absolutely gorgeous. Love it. I will say, I do like the standard version a little better. I think the glossiness of the DualSense Edge it just looks a little less cool than the matte version of the standard. But you're not going to really be able to pick this up. But the DualSense Edge does have the sacred symbols on the touchpad, which is super, super cool. The regular version does not have that. The grips in the back, they're rubber. They're really cool. My first time owning a DualSense Edge, I don't know if I would say it's worth, the upcharge for me, but it's for sure the nicest and the most premium controller I have. And the fact that it's the 30th anniversary, big fan.
It's very pretty. I'm with you, man. I do I give the edge, if you will, to the regular version of that. Just the standard DualSense. I like that it just looks like the PS1 controller.
It does.
If it were to have, or I guess almost like the original DualShock, but now. But
it really matches
all of it,
the 25th DualSense really, really well.
Yeah,
it's a perfect match.
It really is. They've really nailed it, especially this generation. I mean, PS4 was great, but PS5, I mean, my goodness, all the DualSenses that have come out, even the ones that I am not buying, I'm looking at twice, right? I'm like,
cool.
Oh my gosh. Do I want a Helldivers one, even though I didn't play it?
I'm so mad I didn't buy the Concord controller just for the memes of it, just for the history. Like, it was up for like a week.
That would have been wild.
I know, and that's expensive. Yes. Dude, they're so expensive. Like, even a copy of Concord is super, super expensive, even though you can't do anything with it. But back to the DualSense Edge. Yeah. They just announced the Midnight Black line of PlayStation accessories. They've got a portal. They've got the Pulse headphones that you're wearing right now, and they've got a DualSense Edge. The glossy part on the black edge is sick. Like, that is the first time the glossiness has worked for me. Like, I don't know if you've seen the pictures yet. That's the best DualSense Edge, dude. Like, that glossy black looks super, super clean.
They've done an amazing job just like getting. They know their audience. They know the fanboys. They know the converted fanboys, right? Like you and we're predominantly Xbox guys. We love all video games, but really our hearts are in PlayStation for this generation.
We just found a home there. I mean, like they just put out banger after banger, and like you just get used to a platform when you play on it so frequently. That's really all there is to it. It's not tribalism. It's not favoritism. It's just like, I'm playing my PlayStation more because there's really good games on it.
And it's nice to embrace it, but they've really found their niche in terms of selling merchandise this generation. Whether it's the panels for the PS5s or all the DualSenses, or even just some of the collection that you've shown off here tonight, like they really have figured it out. And dude, I've already told myself, I'm like, I'm not going to do this next generation.
You can't.
I'm telling myself that I'm not going to. It's not cost effective. No, however, let's see what happens when PS6 drops in a few years.
For sure. I mean, like you talk about the accessories and the panels. Like I got the PlayStation 5 Pro. I upgraded. I was able to sell my PS5 at a reasonable aftermarket price and justify the upgrade. But I still have the Spider-Man panels just sitting in a box. Like I don't want to let them go. I don't like that. I wasn't going to include that in the sale. Like the person who bought them for me on Facebook Marketplace didn't know that those are hard to find or rare or whatever. So I put the white ones back on. I'm not giving those away with a sale of the console. So they're just sitting around. I got to eventually find somebody who has a need for them, or maybe sell them for a profit. I don't know. You gotta do what you gotta do sometimes.
You will find that for sure. One of those two, no doubt.
If you had a digital, they'd be all yours, brother.
I know. I appreciate that. But it was not meant to be.
No.
So the Geekiverse Fantasy Draft, we just drafted for 2025. So you can check out that live stream, right? We have that posted.
Oh yeah. The VOD it's on YouTube. The whole stream's on YouTube.
Okay.
We didn't make an episode out of it because my audio is just absolute garbage. Maybe we can do it. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But it's up there. Yeah. If you go to youtube.com/Geekiverse, that live stream is cataloged and titled, and it's all there for sure.
John, a few kind of notable points. If I'm thinking about my team, so we had all six of us. So us two plus John, Rashawn, JT, and Derek. And my team is such a funny swing for the fences team. There's a lot. I have a few unannounced games that I went after. I have games that we know are coming. We just don't know if they're coming in 2025. But if all of those games come out this year, I've got it locked up, I think, as long as I don't butcher my free slots. That's a big if.
The inverse of that is that 3 of those games are counterpicked. So you've got Grand Theft Auto 6 counterpicked. You've got unannounced Elder Scrolls Oblivion remake counterpicked, and unannounced Mario 3D platformer counterpicked. So if those games don't exist, that's 3 zeros for you. You can't win. I'm sorry, no matter what, you can't win. So it's you're in a situation. But if all 3 of those games exist, 90, 90, 90, and you win. So it's like you said, you swung for the fences. And there's another possible counter pick. I've been toying with locking in my second counter pick pretty early here, and I'm a little close to taking Silksong. I
think you should do it.
Just to complete the narrative. Just to complete the narrative, but I can't get there yet. Too early. It's January still.
Everybody against Buffalo. It's everybody against Joe. Let's go.
Yeah, no. For me, that's not a personal thing. That's a me thing. I've had Hollow Knight for half a decade on my team. It feels like
dude, what did we say? 2021 was the earliest that was picked.
No, I think it was 2020, dude.
Maybe it was 2020. It's so crazy. There's a game we're going to talk about briefly tonight that was on your roster for 2020, or one of our rosters rather. Sure. But I'm optimistic.
I remember when I started writing again for the Geekiverse, kind of dipping my toes back in the water. I obviously started this stuff I started working with you when you first spun up the website. We did stuff back in, was it 2014, right? When the Geekiverse started.
Yep.
And we parted ways or whatever, but I think I came back in maybe 2018 or 19 to start doing some writing again before podcasts. And I wrote a preview about Hollow Knight Silksong. I remember.
That's insanity.
I did a preview. Team Cherry announces the sequel to Hollow Knight. I think it was 2018, maybe 19. I remember I was working at a different company at the time, and I remember writing it on my lunch break at work. This game has been gestating for so long. So I have 2020 open, and I have the only 2 teams I can see are ours, because everybody else who was part of that year has since left the league. It was just you and I who are members of the Geekiverse, part of it. Neither of us had it, but I think Phil was in that league, and I think Phil had it in 2020. I'm pretty sure it was drafted, or at least on a roster.
I believe you. It's insane that we're here and we still are maybe it comes out this year, but I'm really banking on it being a Switch 2 game, whether it's a launch title or it's one of the big releases this fall.
They commented on it this week. Their first official communication from Team Cherry that they even exist anymore. They're like, yes, the game is still coming. Just chill, leave us alone.
There was some funny buzz this week with that, just with pictures that were dropped by some of the crew that's working on that game. And that's happening now again today with GTA 6. All of this could mean nothing, but it's funny how desperately as gamers we try to connect the dots to things, and I think sometimes we're right, by the way.
But usually we are. I mean, usually that stuff's out there for a reason. I hate to bring this up. It's 2 degrees outside and I just opened my window. It's so warm.
It's wild, man. What a time. What
an inverse of our 2 rooms right now. It's cooking.
If I open the window, you would see the snow blowing right now. It'd be wild.
Joe would just turn to a skeleton immediately.
I'd be like Marv from Home Alone 2. It'd be just insane.
Gonzo.
So the last thing on the fantasy draft, I'm not. So those 3 games that we've talked about that are counterpicked on my roster, if they all drop this year, I wouldn't be surprised to see them pull somewhere between a combined 85 and 90 points
easily
if they hit.
There's not one that I think is a sub 87 out of those 3 games. I mean, for sure. You're talking about Grand Theft Auto 6. You're talking about the next 3D Mario game. You're talking about Oblivion remake. Oblivion's, it's phenomenal. We already know Oblivion's incredible. It's a remake. They're not going to drop the ball on that.
I went all in, and if I miss, then next year it's back to the conservative approach. But sure. We shall see. We'll keep everyone updated.
Yeah, I'm excited.
You can also follow the league, so you don't have to just wait for our updates. But if you search or Google Fantasy Critic, you can find our league. We are under the Geekiverse, and you'll see all our rosters, all our moves all year long. It's kind of fun. John, before we get to the news here, before we gush over what we got last week with the Nintendo Switch 2 reveal, what's in your system? What are you playing?
Couple things, not enough, not as much game time as I've wanted. At the end of the year, did a huge movie kick. Me and the wife, we had some time off together, and we're just it's easier for me at least. She's not a big gamer, but it's easier for me at least to watch a movie while also fathering a toddler because hands free for sure. So I had 2 weeks off for the holiday. She basically had 2 weeks off. So we just watched a ton of movies, and we crushed through a lot of good stuff there. But game-wise, I wanted to make sure I got through Indiana Jones because that game was a pleasant surprise for me. I just rolled credits on it yesterday. I finished it.
Nice.
I had 3 days left on my Game Pass. Every time I booted my Xbox up, it's like, hey bro, you've got 14 days left. Hey man, you got 6 days left. Hey dude, 3 days left in Game Pass. Like, I'm like, oh shit, we gotta finish Indiana Jones here. We'll talk a little bit more about that game soon. So that was a big one. And then Marvel Rivals, dude. Marvel Rivals. I am, I think we're both in the situation where we're just not online competitive gamers anymore. We've both come from the roots of Call of Duty. We both played all the Halo. Those are probably like our Xbox 360 roots is online gaming. But we're dads now. We're dads in our 30s. We got stuff to do. I can't just text the buddies and be like, yo, let's squad up. Nope, can't do that. Can't put a headset on. I got a toddler running around. Oh yeah, my wife Courtney's in the chat. I didn't know you finished Indiana Jones. I did forget to tell you that. Yeah, when you guys were taking a nap yesterday, I finished Indiana Jones. So yeah, that's all gone. But Marvel Rivals, dude, that game is so much fun. It is it's an Overwatch clone. There's a lot of characters. There's a lot going on. But once you understand every character's ability and what they do and how their dynamic can change the game, you really can just drop in and play and have fun whenever you want. You don't have to get good. You don't have to obsess over it. You don't have to dedicate too much time to it. So I've learned that. I play Iron Man. I have a blast, and Iron Man really lends itself well to that type of play strategy too, because he just deals splash damage. Like I'm just up in the sky, throwing bombs out of my hand and just throwing splash damage at whatever I want. Yeah, so that game's cool. It's really well done. And then a little bit of Mario Galaxy 2. Mario Galaxy 2 never made its way over to the Switch, which was really frustrating. And I was just around the holiday time, for some reason, I just feel like I'm in the Mario mood. I want to chip away at the Mario 3D backlog, the games I haven't played. So I've been playing Mario Galaxy 2 on my Steam Deck. It runs better than Mario Galaxy 1 does on the Switch. But there's a couple of caveats because it doesn't have the motion control. So that's I've hit a few walls. I'm maybe I just wait. I don't know. So those are the 3 things I've been juggling a little bit.
Good stuff. Same. I over Christmas, I finished Indiana Jones. What a wonderful surprise that was. And I say that with a grain of salt. Weren't sure what it would look like from Machine Games. Wolfenstein is just so good across the board. The last 3 entries they've done, but this is a new venture and could be hit or miss doing something tied to such a prominent movie IP. But they really nailed it. I can't recommend it enough. I know it's going to be coming to PlayStation in the spring at some point. But if you have an Xbox, go get a month of Game Pass. You've got more than enough time to bang that one out, and it's special. We'll talk about it more in a little bit. John, Marvel Rivals, I have yet to play, but I'll tell you this: everyone that I see or saw over Christmas break came up to me and just would be like, "Hey, did you download Rivals yet?" Everyone is into this game, and how do I say this? They're into it hardcore in a casual way.
Yes, that's the best way to put it.
It's pick up and play, right? You could put it down like you mentioned. You've got a toddler running around, but you still can dive into this and not feel like you've missed a beat. So I'm happy. I'm so happy to see that is doing so well. I hope it continues.
Were you an Overwatch guy at all? You played any Overwatch?
No, I never played.
Interesting. Mm-mm. Even so, I think you should give this a shot. It scratches that Overwatch itch. When Overwatch came out in 2014, 2013, whatever it came out, 2016. Jeez, 2016. That sounds better. I think that's right.
Either 15 or 16, one of those two.
Yeah, it's all a blur, man. There's so many good games on PS4. They're banger.
Dude, IGN had a funny article one time in the last year that said it was either 15 or 16. They're like, our 2015 or 2016 game of the year doesn't exist anymore. How weird is that?
Yeah. But Overwatch. Yeah, you can't play Overwatch 1 anymore. What a silly decision to make Overwatch 1 Overwatch 2. I digress.
Yeah.
But even if you didn't fall for Overwatch, that formula is still once it gets its hooks in you, you understand why it clicks for people. You understand what's so special about this specific hero shooter, follow the payload, do all the support stuff. It's really, really cool. I think especially with obviously the Marvel skin on it, I think you'll have a blast.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great way for a lot of people such as myself. Lindy and Buddy are back. For me, the since finishing Indie, I've been on a Nintendo Switch kick. Funny enough, trying to chow down on the backlog there, even though we know most of these games are going to be compatible on the Switch too. I'm in a groove where I want to get some of this done. So some smaller games like Princess Peach Showtime, I beat, and Daisy wanted me to mention on the show that she beat it today as well.
No way.
So that's fun. She did. She finished that one.
Dude.
She did a good job. She's going to get some of the extras. There's some stuff around the theater, basically, which is the setting for the game, the hub. But yeah, she was stuck on a boss for the longest time, kind of put it away. And then I was like, I want to play this game myself and beat it. And I did. And that motivated her to go back and do it. So I was like, there we go, kid. So that's cool. Kirby and the Forgotten Land. So the game from 2 years ago. That is such a good game. Like, I'm so sorry I slept on it, man. It's so fun. It's so fun. Just all the different weapons you can have in the game, which is funny because it's a Kirby game. It made me a believer. Let me tell you, I cannot recommend it enough. Like if that's in your backlog, up it to the top of the list.
Top of my backlog. I hear nothing but great things about that game. I really want to get to it. I'm at this point where it's like, Switch stuff sounds it sounds fun because it's Switch 2, but it's like, why don't I just wait for the Switch 2 and play it on the Switch 2? Because like the launch lineup of the Switch 2 is not going to be like there's not going to be 5 games that launch that I want to play. There's going to be 1 probably. So like I should probably save some of this backlog stuff for like the new console I want to play on. I don't know. Tough.
I thought about doing the same thing, but because I'm in this groove, I'm going to keep riding that wave until it's gone, knowing that it'll scoop me back up again when the Switch 2 drops.
Yeah, we know how it goes. How many times are we in gaming ruts where it's like we want to play something, but like life is, there's too much going on, man. We don't have time. We don't have the energy. So if you're in that groove, ride it.
That's exactly what I'm doing here. So we'll see how long that goes. However, so on my backlog, I was looking at some games. And next I have, Daisy got Disney Illusion Island, which is okay. We played a little bit of it, but it's something I do want to actually play through. It's short, 6 or 7 hours.
That's the platformer, right?
Yes, platformer from last year, 2 years ago now. And then there was Bayonetta 3. I've never played a Bayonetta game at all, but 3. Sorry, guys. Bayonetta 3 is just
very quiet.
That's good. They that release it did well. It scored very high critically, and it's a game that's appealed to me. That's a game that I'm definitely going to be coming back to. But then it hit me in the face. I'm like, I have Metroid Prime Remastered. Holy crap! I forgot about this game. I bought it right when it came out and started it, and then never finished it. John, have you played anything other than Metroid Dread?
I haven't played. The only Metroid I have played is the Nintendo DS demo of Metroid Prime Hunters. That's it. That's my entire Metroid experience.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So not Dread. Interesting. I thought you did for some reason. Okay.
No, that was one of those ones where like that year was packed. I wanted to play it, just never got to it.
That's a game you need to revisit as well.
I know.
Especially, that was one of the first games I played on my OLED.
It launched with the OLED Switch.
It's pretty, man. Like, my gosh. But anyway, Metroid Prime Remaster, like, John, I think it could be hit or miss, but I think this would strike a chord with you. Like, there's enough in it where I'm a few hours into it. If you can imagine a shooter, but with a good mix of puzzles involved, which is not common.
That's the Nintendo way to tackle a shooter, right?
This is if Nintendo made Halo to me. Now, I'm just playing a single player.
Yeah.
It's exactly what it looked like. And it's really fun and charming. And you have to spend time in the worlds that you're in looking for some of these puzzles to complete. Like, you cannot go on with some of them. Of course, there's completionists who are going to spend hours and hours to do that. But this is kind of striking a good middle ground. So, I'm really having fun with that so far.
I mean, it's quite literally the first half of the genre, Metroidvania,
It is. It's incredible, man. For good reason.
You ever think about like the etymology of that? Like we're at the point where like we just toss out Metroidvania. Like that's just like a word. That's two different games. That's Metroid and that's Castlevania. They've had such an impact on our on the lineage of games. Like just a genre now. It's
for us in our generation. It's Soulsborne.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
How crazy is that?
Yeah. It's cool.
Like
really cool.
To think that a few games like that inspired a whole new genre or subgenre of things. Like it's pretty awesome.
Yep.
All right, getting to the news here. Let's get to it. Let's talk Nintendo Switch 2. John, so last week we got just all the rumors were true that we've thought so far. We get to the 16th. The dogs are running circles by me. I'm so sorry.
They're doing great. Everyone's doing great.
So for the Switch 2, they just drop a video to introduce it. It's about 2 to 3 minutes long. It's the chillest hype release video I've ever seen in my life.
It's an Apple iPhone reveal. Like it is. It's legitimately an iPhone reveal. And like the Switch 2 is just it's just a new iPhone. That's what it is to its core, and that explains why things leak so heavily too, is because it's a very iterative console, and Nintendo needs this launch to go smoothly. So they have shared a lot with third-party partners. They've gotten their case manufacturers involved. They've gotten all the developers involved, and they've been very loose with what the Switch 2 is. And that's why every August, the next iPhone leaks. Every August, when the iPhone comes out in September, we have a full 3D mock-up of what the next iPhone is, because Apple is playing nice. They're giving case manufacturers the iPhone. They want the transition from the iPhone 13 to the 14 to be as smooth as possible, and they need their partners involved for that. That's exactly why the Switch 2 leaks so heavily, because they need D-Brand, and they need Casetify, and they need all these accessory brands that people love for their Switch. They need them just to roll right into Switch 2, and that's more important than the secrecy of what the Switch 2 was. And again, it's an Apple product. That's what it is at this point.
And you know what, John, too? Like, it's smart to ride the wave of the anticipation there, because in this case, the hype helps, right? Yeah. Like, we're getting these pieces here and there, and we know that it's generally positive. Like, there's no huge surprise so far that we've seen. Everything about it is what we thought and what we've heard, and stuff has been kind of building over the last year or so towards it, and it still was really epic. It was still awesome, really awesome. Yeah, like, what a way to do that,
Yeah, it was so clean. It's a bigger, better Switch, and the video was so sick. I love the all black look. Sure, it's a little less playful, but people have pointed out, like, the Switch is growing up with the audience that it was intended for, and like, maybe you and I were a little older than that audience at that point, but like, Nintendo is for everybody. But like, the Switch was very colorful, it was very poppy, it was very Nintendo, and this was them saying, like, we've mastered that, and we're also a grown-up handheld. You can also play The Witcher on us. Like, you can also play third-party games. Like, we're going for that market. I think it was awesome. I think it was perfect.
I think it was perfect too, and it was just so much fun to go back and rewatch over and over. And then what it did for me was it really started getting me dreaming about what this is gonna actually look like. And when we get it home, take it out of the packaging, you play with it, and like, I threw it out to the Geekiverse group. I was like, guys, I would love to plan a night, when this comes out that week, just to hang out and sit around
games, dude,
with our handhelds. Like, I love the idea of that. So I think this thing looks sleek. I love even what they've done with the thumbsticks, how we've got the colors under it, which is so subtle, and
the color inside the rails, like, that's so sick.
I like the way these look like they connect, as opposed to yep. There's that, as opposed to over the top with the clips on the current Switch.
Yeah, and I'll say that, like, that's like been the biggest, like, hardware complaint about the Switch, is that, like, with these rails, they just get a little loose. Like, you can always feel the Joy-Cons and the fact that they're attached just a little loose, no matter what. You buy a brand new Switch, yeah, it's great for like a couple days, and then all of a sudden you got a little bit of wiggle on those Joy-Cons. So I think the magnetic, like, really lock in, because there's buttons on the back now that are gonna, like, lock it and unlock it, kind of like these little tiny dainty ones right now. I think the magnets are gonna really make this thing feel like a unit.
I think so too, and I mean, some people, like you mentioned, talk about the color of it, and I'm good with where they're going with it now. It's so slick looking, but like, we know that we're gonna get a generation full of different colors of Joy-Cons and all that, accessories that come along with it. So like, it'll evolve here as we go too.
And I wouldn't be surprised if we see 2 SKUs at launch. Like, honestly, I don't know if it'll be like a full color one, or maybe it's a white one. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we just saw, like, the first SKU, because obviously the first one launched with the gray for the boring people, and then the neon as well.
For sure. Anything else that we wanted to touch on? We know we're getting they're doing hands-on preview events really around the world in the spring, starting in April, going all the way up to June 1st. So we know that's coming. We know another direct is coming. What, April
2nd.
something? Okay,
Yeah,
2nd
4/2.
was what I had in my head.
Because it was 2/4 when we watched it. Because when we watched the European trailer, it's like, oh shit, February. Oh no, that's backwards.
What an accidental tease, you know.
We all did that. So yeah, so it's April 2nd for that. I'm bummed that like the preview events go all the way out till June, because that tells me the console's probably not out until after June. Like you're probably not going to do those preview events while it's still out. I was hoping that like, yes, like we have the leaks, this thing's ready. Here's your Nintendo Direct in April, and like it's ready for May, but probably not. It's probably going to be this isn't a prediction, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a fall release, which would suck. It would really suck, but I could see it. I could see it.
In a separate chat that you and I are both in for video games, I said I'd bet on a May or June release, but I'm going to walk that back, knowing that those events do go up to June 1st or 2nd now. That tells me September. Just that's my gut.
Right.
I don't know why that is there, but
I mean, the fall for a product launch, the fall for, video games, it's just so huge. If they could have done it earlier, like the Switch was March, right? The Switch,
it was.
Yeah, so like that made sense. It was the beginning of the year. It's a drought for video games. Like most people, it's summer and it's fall, and if you're not going to hit summer, it's either got to be early summer or early fall. I think those are the big moments.
Man, they dropped that just so perfectly. We could talk through that again, and maybe that's something we cover between now and the Switch too. Is what did that first year of the Switch look like, right? If you're thinking about Breath of the Wild being a launch title, not to mention the hype before, really just a month and a half before the Switch actually got to shelves, and then you get a 3D Mario within 5 months of launch. You get Mario Kart within 7 months of launch. Like, my gosh, they're going to be hard pressed to repeat something like that,
Everything, the stars have aligned in a pretty interesting way. Like we have not had like the big Nintendo game that's not a sequel in a very long time. Like the last big Nintendo game we have is Breath of the Wild. I'm sorry, Tears of the Kingdom, which is a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild. Same engine, same everything like that. So like those teams are cooking, man. Like obviously Mario Kart's been cooking for 12 years, 13 years at this point. Mario Kart 8's been ported, but we got a lot to look forward to. I think that the first like 3 years of the Switch could be insane, dude. Like I think you could see, obviously we know Mario Kart's coming. We don't know if it's a launch title or not, but like we assume so. Mario Kart's coming. We know that a 3D Mario is due. We know that there's been so many leaks and rumors of Zelda remakes, like Ocarina of Time remake. Stuff like that. Like there's just so much that could really, really pad out this launch window of the Switch 2.
It is pretty crazy to think of all these studios that have not released a major game in a while, or maybe a spin-off or a sequel or a remaster. But I mean, another reason I'm playing Metroid right now is because I think Metroid Prime 4 is going to be in this launch window for this system, which is wild.
I think so too.
Wow.
And not to mention a second wave of like, I think people forget the awe that was playing some of these like Xbox 360, PS3 gen games portably, like your BioShocks and your Far Cries and like Batman Arkham. To be able to play those games portably back in 2017 was like, what is going on? Like I can put the
huge appeal,
right? Like the last generation of handhelds was the 3DS and the Vita, and like I love those consoles. But those were dedicated handhelds. Like you were making games for those underpowered handhelds. You were making them with handheld in mind. The Switch was the first console to be like, no, you can play BioShock Infinite handheld. You can play Batman Arkham Asylum handheld. Like
crazy,
dude. The video game market takes that for granted so much nowadays. In 2025, like people don't realize how big of a deal that was and how big of an appeal that was for the Switch. So I think we have a second wave of that. We've got our Cyberpunk, our Red Dead 2. Like, do those games run on the Switch too? I think they might. They're not going to look as good as the Xbox, Series X and the PS5 versions, of course. But I think we're going to get games like that. And I think we're going to be like, damn, like I forgot how cool this was to be able to play AAA, third-party AAA games on the Switch. I think we're going to see a second wave of that.
Dude, how many times in the first few years of the Switch did I just text you and be like, oh, I think I want to make that a Switch game, or that game would be fun on Switch. And at one point I think you were like, every game would be fun on the Switch, and that it kind of became a reality. Like
it was a meme.
A Steam Deck here over my shoulder was kind of the next version of that for me, where I was like, all right, now I'm playing some meaty computer games on here. This is looking awesome. But like there are a lot of devices like the Steam Deck out there now that We just have never we've heard of them, but like we've never heard of them almost.
I'm really,
you know what I mean?
I'm really involved. Like I love that community, and like I think that like there's something to be said about that. Yeah, like the handheld space has really evolved since the Switch existed. The Switch started that revolution for sure. The Steam Deck kind of ran with it, and then your RNG allies and your Lenovo Legion Go's, they sprinted with it. So like I'm all about that community, but I think having it on like mainline Nintendo hardware, it's different. It's a little different.
It is different, and even how it runs is different. So for all of that, all those reasons that we mentioned, I'm very excited for the Switch 2, and we'll take more of a deep dive over the coming months as we get more information on that, what we see the launch lineup to look like, what the launch window looks like. Holiday 25 is going to be a lot of fun for this.
I'm sure we'll talk about pre-orders and how smoothly that goes. Like that's going to be fun.
Curious to see. The rumor is 20 million in stock. That sounds like a good number, but I don't know. I don't know if that's a good number or not.
The Switch 1 did 15 million the first year, and that was hard to get at first.
It was. We'll see what happens, but good news all around for that. John, before we get into our game of the year, so you and I each have our top 5 lists for 2024. We'd be remiss if we didn't go through those. I wanted to have this episode just so we can look back, we can officially crown a game of the year. But I wanted to just revisit real quick. If you go back a year, what were our most anticipated games for 2024? I'll just run through our lists quick, see how we did. And I think some of these games we knew were in trouble when we made these lists, but we still wanted them anyway. We acknowledge that on this show.
You're saying we a lot. Do you mean we or do you mean you?
Well, depends which one we're talking about. I'll go through my list to start. Number 5, I had Indiana Jones, so that worked out well. Good game. You had it number 3 on your list for most anticipated. A game we both had that I believe neither of us played was Silent Hill 2 remake.
That's true. Yeah, that's very true.
Why? Why did that happen? It's so funny. It did well. It reviewed well. It did what it was supposed to do. I think it wasn't as fresh as maybe like when Resident Evil 2 remake hit, because that was like off the charts.
When did it come out?
2019.
No, I'm sorry. Silent Hill 2 remake. What month was it?
October, I believe.
Never mind. My point was going to be that was it around Halloween. Never mind.
Yeah, I believe it was October 7th or something. I skipped one for you. At number 5, you had Paper Mario.
Didn't touch it.
I was going to say. All right. Number 3, this is a game I was alluding to that I knew was in trouble. That was Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Man, that game is dead. You could get it for $7. Man, a year ago, almost exactly this launched. Rocksteady is done with it. However, the prediction that I had that was incorrect, that I'm so thankful for, is that Rocksteady is still alive.
Yes, we know that they've already greenlit their next project, is from what I've seen.
And here's hoping. Let's go. Let's get back at it.
Get back to what you know. Hop back in, baby.
Do it. That's WB. Get out of the way, right? WB, get out of the way.
For sure.
You had Indy at 3. Number 2 on the list. I had Hellblade 2.
Okay.
A game that appeared on 2020's Fantasy Draft.
Jeez, you're right.
That's a game that was disappointing for the sake of it not being a game of the year contender, which is a funny thing to say.
It was
it's
disappointing
an okay game.
It didn't evolve enough from what the first one was, in my opinion. It was more of the same, and like, yes, it was more technically impressive, and like it's probably the best looking game that's ever existed. Like it's probably visually the most realistic game that exists. But yeah, it didn't do much more than that. It didn't introduce really interesting puzzles or different gameplay mechanics. It was just more Hellblade and more pretty.
I would say it was less purposeful than the first one. The first one, every combat encounter had something, even if it like the combat it's not known for. We get into this one, and I've always kind of like hated this term, but if I think of walking simulator, this is what that game is.
Right, for
And
sure.
I don't think the story is nearly as good as the first one. The first one's so unique. Maybe this might be a game that didn't need a sequel, which sounds horrible to say because when you have a good game, you want more of it. That's normal, but that first game is really special. I hope this doesn't deter anyone from going and playing it. It is what it is, but
And it's not
I'm
bad
happy
at
we
all.
got it at the same
Yeah,
time.
it's not bad at all. I didn't finish it. I'm probably 75% of the way through. I played like 3 or 4 hours of it, whatever. How long is it? Is it 5, 6 hours?
Yeah, about 6.
Yeah, so
you're right there.
So I played most of it, and it was just one of those things where it's like I'm just not motivated to finish this. I think I've gotten all I need from it. Like I appreciate the visuals, I understand this gameplay. I don't care about the story. Like I don't want to see this through. But I think I grasped what that game is.
Dude, incredible voice acting again. A lot of the same.
Melania Jergens,
kind of well written,
like insane.
Oh yeah,
like,
she's incredible.
I don't know if she did win best performance at the Game Awards, but like that was my lock-in vote because she was insane.
Yeah, for sure. She's something special. I hope she continues to get other roles in games, and I hope other studios do something similar to this. This is very, very special. Take a look online. This game's not for everyone. The first one isn't either, but yeah, I do recommend playing it.
Yeah.
John, you got what 2 or 3 days left on Game Pass, so come on.
Yeah, I can do it tomorrow, right? But yeah, that's the thing. It's on Game Pass. Give it a shot. It might be for you. Like it is very cinematic. It is technically like out of this world cool, but it's missing in some other avenues.
This is the first game I played after LASIK surgery, and let me tell you what a struggle that was. I could only watch things for like maybe 45 minutes at a time before I was just done. Like my eyes had incredible fatigue, and I was like,
I mean, quite a pretty game to test your new eyes out on, though.
It was, and it was worth it in small doses.
Those
which
first
this
10
game
minutes
being
were
only
incredible.
6 hours, being only 6 hours was like, oh my gosh, it was so awesome.
Perfect.
Number 2 on most anticipated last year, you had Final Fantasy VII Rebirth,
Makes a lot of sense.
By all accounts, is a great game. We've got the 2 biggest Final Fantasy VII fans in the Geekiverse right here on this podcast. So it is what it is. And then number 1, a game. So this is where I think, I don't know. Maybe you didn't feel this way. I didn't think that Star Wars Outlaws was going to be a Game of the Year contender. I had heard enough. There was enough smoke before the game came out where I was worried about it. I really was. But we got it, and it was the absolute average, middle of the pack game with a big fancy Star Wars IP. And it's funny because I said at one point that if you contrast 2 very big AAA releases in Star Wars Outlaws and Suicide Squad this year, I think the Star Wars IP helped this game and hurt it in some ways because it's Star Wars, so expectations are higher. But I don't think people play it if it's not Star Wars. I don't know what that IP ends up being if it's not. But Suicide Squad, I feel like it hurt it being a Suicide Squad game, and that if you had called it any sort of generic shooter, it actually would have been praised as a pretty good game.
You're totally right. You're 100% right with those.
It's so weird to think, and maybe it's not fair, but you know what? Life's not fair. So here we are. But Rocksteady is alive and well. Ubisoft is hanging on by a thread, and thread is Assassin's Creed.
That's going to be quite the story this year when it goes on with Ubisoft.
Will make or break that brand. So that's a whole topic for another time. But John, Star Wars Outlaws, you've said it may be the worst game you played in your adult life.
Yeah.
Talk through it.
I really disagree with that sentiment that you said that it was a fine average game. I think that game's not good. I think it really is. So as a video game, I think it's a bad video game. Like I can't really talk myself into like praising it in terms of video game prowess anywhere. Like it's just not good. There are fun things about it, like the environments and like the world building and like being in a cantina in that environment they built.
That was cool. Yeah.
That was well done. It was like they crushed the world building for sure. But as a video game, man, that game sucks. Like that game truly sucks. I'm sorry. Like it really is not good. Like the gameplay is so frustratingly bad. The stealth, the stealth, man. I'm playing Indiana Jones, a game that has silly stealth, like really, really funny, like stealth that goes wrong in funny ways. And like you get a little frustrated, but then you forgive it because it's Indiana Jones and that's the point. Star Wars Outlaws is so not that. Star Wars Outlaws is so like, I'm just trying to get through this freaking level, and I something that didn't trip the stealth last time tripped it this time, and I have no explanation as to why, and I have to restart the level, or like there's 60 stormtrooper. Like, dude, the game isn't good. Like, it's legitimately a bad game, and it's really frustrating because like there's a lot of cool things about the package, but it's a bad game. And you said the quote that I've said to you, it's probably the worst game I've played in my adult life. And that's true, man. Like, I just don't play a lot of games that are not good. Like, I know, like, I do my research. Like, I play games that are probably going to be pretty damn good. But I'm a Star Wars fan. Like, I'm a diehard Star Wars fan. So like, if that brand is attached to a game, I'm going to try it. So I tried this one, and yeah, I think it's the worst game I've played in easily 15, 20 years.
It's very bizarre because this is massive entertainment, right? Like it's a big studio.
Yeah, I mean, they did the Avatar game before that.
They did
very similar.
Oh my gosh, did they not do The Division?
I don't think so. I think so I'm pretty sure this specific studio, I think the Avatar game was their first game, if I'm not mistaken.
For some reason I had it in my head that they did the Division, but I could be wrong, or at least part of it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. This game is just, I don't understand how it's so half baked. Like,
you feel it throughout the game all the time. Like it
could have been in the oven another year and a half, right? Like the speeder bikes, like you run into a rock and it might as well be a wall,
dude. And then other rocks that are like 3 feet tall, you just glide right over.
There's no consistency to it. Like, it's an incomplete world. The bugs are weird because it's stuff like that. It's not like your character dropped through the world most of the time. It's not that pretty. Like you played it on
Pro.
the Pro.
It's so much better. So here's the thing.
You said it was a lot better.
When I watched coverage on this game, I was watching Andy Cortez playing on PC, and the game is gorgeous. Like, the ceiling for this game is insanely gorgeous, but its optimization for the base PS5, Jesus, like it looks really, really, really bad. One of my biggest issues with the game was just like literal game design. So I'll be in a main story, and I'm playing this game for the most part main story mission. Like, it is an open world game. You can spend dozens of hours doing side quests, but I'm just trying to get through it. I want to see the story. I already know I don't love it. I just want to do point A, B, C. I want to finish this game, and I'm going right from a main quest to another main quest, and I'm on this planet. And like, there's a clear path, at least what I think is a clear path, because the map in this game also sucks. So I'm like, all right, I think that's the way to go. It makes the most sense. Like, I've played video games for 27 years of my life. Like, that makes sense to me. I go that way, and it's like, nope, there's a deadlock. You can't go this way. You were supposed to go the other way. And I'm like, I'm 20 minutes of real time away from the quest. And I'm like, dude, this game is just poorly designed. I've been playing video games for a long time. That was stupid, man. That was a stupid way to take me. And there was just 3 or 4 instances of that. I'm like, this game's not well made.
Dude, how painful was it to go into a mission? And I'm about to run my dogs downstairs, so I'm loading this up for a question. But like,
just we can't hear them at all. We can see them. We can't hear them at all.
Okay, that's great. They're so loud.
I know you can hear them. We can't hear them.
So, how painful was it to go into a mission thinking I'm going to take this one stealth because I can't take on 30 stormtroopers myself, right? Because the shooting also sucks.
Terrible. One gun. What are we doing?
Horrible. Talk about that. So you go to take a sniper rifle or whatever gun you just picked up from a stormtrooper, and you go to climb a ladder and you have to drop it.
There's no inventory system. The gun just falls. What?
Oh my gosh, dude. So there's that. But like, if you're coming up on an Imperial base, because of course it's always the Empire, right? And you're about to try to clear this out, and you get caught after, let's say, you kill half the stormtroopers, or you take out half of them. How upsetting was it knowing you had to redo that? And then sometimes, I don't know if you're like me, I would get tempted in other games where if I tried something stealth and I didn't do well, and it took me 20 minutes, the next time I'm going in guns a-blazing.
100%,
It's not an option. It's not an option.
Yeah.
You will get destroyed, and the alarm's going off, and the troops are endless. It's terrible.
It's like they designed this game to be a stealth game, like a Hitman, or like a but the game's not. The stealth isn't good. There's nothing clever about the stealth. Like, you're playing You're playing a game that is designed to like make you play stealth, but it is shoehorned in stealth mechanics. It's like, what? Yeah. Like, what the hell's going on?
Well, as we talked about Indiana Jones, you know, kind of comparing notes. I think I was saying, listen, Troy Baker is an outstanding Harrison Ford in Indiana Jones, like unbelievable. In some cases, I can't tell the difference. This game, in hindsight, should have been a Han Solo game, right? Like, can you imagine a game like that?
Yeah.
Right? Like leading up to where you end up in the cantina in A New Hope, where you meet Luke Skywalker and Ben Kenobi. Like, I get goosebumps thinking about something like that. But
Star Wars is just too attached to those stories to give them away like that.
They should have done anything else really than what they did here. And even the story part of this is not all that interesting, which is disappointing because you know, Kay could have been an interesting character, but ended up kind of falling flat. And you know, we get our usual cameos throughout the story, but it just it wasn't enough to save it. So that is a studio changing a it's not good. You know, I need a new Jedi game to wash the taste of that one out of my mouth.
Give me Cal Kestis, please.
Give me some more Cal. So that was number 1 on our list here. Now we're going to talk about our game of the year 2024 and how different, inevitably, our lists looks like from what those most anticipated look like. Now, of course, some of the games we didn't know were coming. Some were announced mid-year and then dropped in the fall, but some kind of flew under the radar for us as well. And we'll go down the list. We usually do this. We'll go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll take turns doing that. John, do you want to start with what is number 5 on your list, or do you want me to start?
I'll be happy to start. I can talk about this game. We've been recording for what are we at? An hour on the dot. I could talk about this game for an hour easily. My number 5 of 2024 is Balatro. Oh my God. My first touchstone with Balatro is that early in the year, it came out early. I think it came out like January, February, probably February. I was so close to picking this game up on Fantasy Critic. I'm like, ooh, a roguelite that's like a poker game? Like, yo, that sounds like a really, really cool indie game that could hit. It could just be one of those games that like doesn't review well. I was so torn. I'm like, not going to do it. That game was like a 93 on Metacritic, and it deserves it so much. Balatro, if you don't know, this game's on your phone right now. Like if you have an Apple account, you probably accidentally subscribed to Apple Arcade. It's part of Apple Arcade. Go download Balatro. It is poker, but it's like it's poker with levels. Like the goal is to get to level 8 basically, and it's just so creative and there's so much fun to it. You don't even have to care about poker. That's literally not even the point of the game. It's what you're doing with your runs and what you're doing with like every attempt is different. They've got these jokers that augment the game. And this was made by one person. Like, what are we talking about? Like, video games are insane. The fact that this game can be made by one person. Balatro, easily, without a doubt, no, not even a question, my most played game this year. I played it when it came out. I bought it on the Switch. I played through it. I probably spent a good 20, 30 hours playing on the Switch. And then when it came out on iOS, I probably put a good 60, 70, 80, 100 hours into that game. I played so much Balatro on my phone, on my iPad. It's a good passive game. If you're looking for something to play like while you're watching TV and you understand the game enough, you can play while you're doing that. But then like when you get into a good run, you realize, oh, like I got the right jokers to like make this a good run. I could break my personal record here. You lock in, like you turn off whatever was on the TV and you focus on what you're doing with Balatro because like it's that good. I can't say enough about it. It's my indie game of the year. It is number 5 just because like, damn, it could be higher. It could easily be higher. It's just a tough year. Balatro, dude.
It's saying a lot for you that it's only number 5 because of how obsessed you were with it. Man, that game was all over so many categories in terms of nominations for Game of the Year at the Game Awards, which is again crazy. One guy, what a concept. But good to see that game is doing well. I think that we'll have some legs over time too. Number 5 for me. So a game I was very excited about as we got closer and closer, and I stand by it. And it's Life is Strange Double Exposure. Now, this game is not quite on the level of True Colors, but I really don't think it's that far off either. A little bit different setting. We're going back to the original protagonist and Max Caulfield. So there's a lot of people that are longtime Life is Strange fans that are going to love that. I think John and I, if I may speak for you, there's something that we find appealing about these games that's cozy. It's the acoustic guitars. It's the settings that they're in. There's something just so grounded about these small stories that are also larger than life. And it's a very sweet story. So essentially in this story, without going into spoilers, I guess the twist here is that there's alternate universes. And I know a lot of you are rolling your eyes right now, as I would have been if I didn't play this game. But it really works to the advantage and the dynamic of the gameplay for this. So not only are you on alternate timelines, which could sound a little bit daunting, but you are jumping back and forth to find clues in one world to basically solve a murder in another. And then sometimes you are talking to characters in one, and you're not totally sure right off the bat if you're like, oh, hang on, is this the past version or is this this timeline version? Like there's so many different variables to it that it could sound like it's complex, but it's really not at its heart. And it's a lot of fun. It's something I'm going through on the platinum. It's relatively short. I do have a gripe that I mentioned earlier that they're making you go all the way through it again, but it's only probably about a 12-hour game. So I would say if you've liked Life is Strange ever, if you've liked any of the entries, whether it was Max or True Colors, I really encourage you to go play this one. They do break them up into 5 chapters, which is really nice. It's a cheaper release as well, so you can get this one for 30, 40, or $50. But another nice year for Life is Strange for me.
I love it. I love to see that because I tried Life is Strange 1 and 2 and Before the Storm, and like they just never hit for me. It was fine. Like it just wasn't my thing. True Colors really struck for me, and it was my 2019. Is that what it was? 2021?
True Colors was 21.
So it was my game of the year that year. So like that game really, really struck a chord with me, and like it was a much more mature subject matter. I felt like it was a little less gimmicky, and I felt like the writing was just a little bit more mature. That game blew me away. So if you're telling me this is close to that, I do owe it to that franchise to give it a shot. To me, it was like, all right, we're going back to Max. I've tried the OGs, didn't really mix, and some of the earlier reviews were like, it's not quite True Color. So like that was enough for me to not jump on it at launch. But again, hearing your praise and seeing it on your list is something that like makes me want to go back to it for sure.
I do think you would enjoy it. I think that everything you just said there encapsulates how you feel about it, which is pretty good to say, hey, I don't like it near, maybe quite as much as True Colors, but you and I both really like True Colors quite a bit. So this scratched that itch for me for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah. Wow. What do you got at number 4?
Number 4, a game that we just talked about, we've alluded to, we're going to get back to a few times in this episode. We're talking about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Oh my God, this game is good, dude. Like I was so... When this game was announced, we got a splash screen. The Machine Games making an Indiana Jones game. I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, it's Uncharted. It's the next Uncharted. Uncharted borrowed from what Indiana Jones was and took it to a video game. And like we have this love for what Uncharted is. We've played 4.5 Uncharted games. We love it so much. So that my thought is like, all right, we're coming full circle, pun intended. We're coming back to Indiana Jones. Yeah. We're getting back to the source material. This game is not an Uncharted game. Don't think it is, and that's not a bad thing at all. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is very much a Machine Games game. Like it is very Wolfenstein. It is very in your face. It's first person, which I'm like, that was my biggest put off. I'm like, first person, like action adventure puzzle game. Like that just seems a little weird. We watched some of the trailers, the first reveals. It's like, just looks a little clunky, like the whips and the fights, and like it doesn't look quite Uncharted, because that's what we're all thinking about. Let's not sugarcoat that. We're all thinking about Uncharted, but you get your hands on the sticks and it just works so well. You're solving puzzles. You've got these awesome campy quips back and forth. The combat, the fisticuffs combat just feels really, really good. I fired my gun, I don't know, Like I've probably fired less than 100 bullets in that game. I beat it yesterday. I probably fired less than 100 bullets, and that includes fully automatic weapons that I picked up off the ground, right? Like less than 100 bullets, and I probably killed 24 Nazis easily, right?
Yeah.
So the exploration, the puzzles, the game just feels so good, and that was the biggest surprise to me because I was worried about how it would feel being first person. So I've watched the first two Indiana Jones movies. I'm not a huge fan. I enjoyed them. I never went back to the third one. I never went back to the next two after that, the Shia LaBeouf and the reboot and stuff like that. I had fun with those movies, but like this really, like this was like my touchstone for Indy. Like this was the one where I'm like, oh, I get it. Like I understand the pulp and the campiness. Like I get this. Game's good, man. Like underratedly good.
You nailed it with the touchstone point. That's it for me too. Like I did watch the trilogy growing up, only once really, right after I got into Star Wars, because I'm like, hey, this makes sense, right?
Lucasfilm, Harrison Ford.
It never hit for me. I've respected the films, but I earlier this year, right before the game came out, I wanted to go back to them, and I watched the first one again, and I was like, yeah, I remember why I never got into these. Again, with all due respect, if you love Indiana Jones, I'm happy for you. But this game is my Indiana Jones. Like, let's go. I'm ready to go. I want more of it. Troy Baker is incredible as Harrison Ford. People didn't even know it was Troy Baker right away, which is wild.
Like, uncanny.
He's just off on another planet. You've got your Indiana Jones girl, right? You've got your Indiana Jones villain. Like there's some really classic stuff that they understand this character more than most studios ever could. It's so crazy because Machine Games like nails Wolfenstein, which is predominantly a shooter. A different feeling shooter than you're probably used to, but this is like, you're right, John. I think I only actually used my pistol. I never used a gun that I could pick up in the game. It was always fisticuffs or stealth or that.
Or a pan or like how much fun was it to find like a different ooh, I got a new combat, like a new melee.
A guitar
weapon.
Was my favorite one.
It was so much fun. Like to be able to sneak up on people and take them out with like funny weapons. Like how sick was that? The only reason I used a automatic was because I was playing the game pretty mainline. You know how I play games. I'm not here for the side stuff for the most part. I was in a moment, like a section where I was supposed to have a disguise, but I never got it. I never got the disguise. I never got it, the one that I needed. I was in the guy's base.
You needed that gun.
Is it like Voss? What's his name? I forget his name.
Yep.
Whoever the main baddie is. Like I was robbing his safe. And I'm like, why is this so freaking hard? I looked it up on YouTube. I was supposed to have a disguise. I'm like, you know what? I'm this far. I don't have it. I'm not doing it. So I picked up a machine gun and I figured it out.
I don't know how that happened. Like that's kind of funny to think about. But like even within this relatively small contained hub worlds, like it's you can find some variation. It's a relative open world, we'll say.
It's an excellent game, dude. Like it is top tier, like 8, 9 out of 10. Like it's an amazing game.
It's not, in my opinion, getting enough love. Like I'm so happy that this killed it. A part of me wishes that this was truly an Xbox exclusive. I understand why it makes sense that it's not.
I'm fully the opposite. I am like, this game would be getting more of its flowers if it launched day one on PS5 as well.
It would. It 100% would be.
It deserves that.
There's a part of me that just is like, no, I want this huge win for Xbox, but it won't get the credit that it's totally due, even when it does cross over to PS5. There's just how it goes with these games nowadays. And
I think that's because of the time difference though. Like if it just launched, because like we know Xbox has committed to, like, they're just a publisher now. They have a box. They're going to support that box. Games are maybe going to be best on Xbox. Game Pass is here. Like it's awesome. Like I love their strategy. I wish this was the game that they really ripped the Band-Aid off on.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, it was a year ago that we were talking about those 4 previous exclusives, right? That were making the jump, which was huge news at the time. So dude, by the way, we're 2 days away from another publisher showcase here for Xbox.
Yes.
So like we've got some big stuff, I think, ahead for 2025. I love what they're doing. I like the approach they're taking. I think it's good. I think it's good for all the studios that they've got under the umbrella. Sure. I'll say this, John, last out on Indie. In addition to Troy Baker needs to be Han Solo. But here with this game, the moment that was like the Indiana Jones moment for me Do you recall in the first movie when he faces that guy with the sword who's so impressive and he's whirling it around and he pulls out his pistol and shoots him?
100%.
I had that moment in a boss fight. I don't believe I was like, the
I
game
did
doesn't
too.
tell you to do it.
I did
So
too. Was it the first time against
almost
Locust?
maybe it
Was
was
it the Locust?
it was middle of the game.
Right.
It was what is I don't know the name of the guy.
The big guy.
It was what is it the guy or was it another one? I can't remember now. Either way, so you're in this kind of contained yet open area, and I can't even remember what puzzle it was at this point. We're probably talking about the same, but anyway, I died several times trying to punch my way through that. I'd punch a few times and then run away and like basically backtrack and then go in for a few more hits once he got tired. I was going nowhere with it. So I just lost patience at one point on probably like the fourth time I died, pulled out my pistol, shot him in the head, and he was done.
Yeah.
And I was like, I see. The game doesn't tell you to do that.
The game
so
trains
great.
you not to use your pistol at all. Like
yes.
You are never like there's never not even like a tutorial on how to use it and how to get to it. Like you are not really supposed to use that thing. It's like it's a weird item in your satchel that like if you find it, yeah, sure, use it. But like, you're supposed to be fighting and you're supposed to be using your whip. Dude, I forgot about my whip so many times. The amount of times I'm like facing somebody, I'm like, shit, this guy's got a gun. I'm like trying to fight him and knock it. I'm like, I got a whip. I can just pull it out of his hand with my whip. Yeah.
Towards the end of the like the very last part of the game is when I started using that, which I almost regret. But
it's great.
When that hits PlayStation, that's a game I could see going in platinuming. It's not an extensive platinum, and no. By the time it comes out, it'll be summer and Black Friday. It'll be on sale, so that's what I'm kind of thinking about in my head. But go play Indiana Jones. Get a month of Game Pass. You could
excellent
go through it. Game number 4 on my list. A return to form, if there ever was one, in my opinion, and it's Call of Duty Black Ops 6. I really, really like this game. This is a big single-player campaign, much like we were used to in the earlier days of Black Ops. Big set pieces, all the good stuff, with a very good story, by the way, and roots that tie back to those original Black Ops games, and of course, some characters that y'all come to love. But not only is it a really, really good single-player campaign, and maybe the best one in years, but man, John, I was playing online some nights, and it's been a while since I've gotten into some deathmatch in anything. Probably since you and I were playing Halo a few years ago. So jumping into this, it was classic. Nuketown will never, ever, ever get old. They do it better even than the other games have. Nuketown Holiday was such a fun version of that right around Christmas time. But this game is very quality. There's not much left to say about Call of Duty, but everyone needs to go and play this one again. Another game on Game Pass.
Sure. It's on my short list. It didn't make my list because I didn't finish the campaign, but I did have a really good time with it. I've just never really been a Call of Duty campaign guy. I really think the only Call of Duty campaign I may have ever finished, I think 4 in World at War. That was it. Like I finished 4 because like I was obsessed with Call of Duty 4. Like, that was like revolutionary. I'm like, all right, I love the online. I'm gonna play the game. Finished it. But World of War, you had to finish the game to get zombies. Like people don't realize you had to unlock zombies by beating the game back then. You had to earn that shit. So I remember just speed running that game because I wanted to play zombies and like you could play zombies with your friends, but they had to host the game if they had beaten it. So like I couldn't play solo without it. It's never been my thing. The more I've gone back and tried to play them, the more I start to respect it and realize like, yeah, there's something to this. Didn't finish Black Ops 6. Did we say 6? We on 6?
Yep. We're on 6.
Too damn many. And we're rebooting these nowadays too, right?
Yep.
But yeah, I for sure return to form. Played way more online than I have in a Call of Duty game in a very long time. Like it's a great game. I'm glad that they crushed it. I'm glad they did something special here.
It was really crazy a few nights being like, hey, I could go finish Life is Strange. I could continue my platinum pursuit of Horizon, or I could go get lost on Call of Duty. So I was like, I'll of course, classic, right? Just one chip. I'm going to have just a few matches here. I'm going to just play a few. And then it's 3 hours later, and I'm like, I need to go to bed because my 2-month-old is going to be crying very soon.
Right.
Like, it's crazy. But yeah, I can't recommend it enough. John, what do we got number 3 on your list?
Number 3, The Legend of Zelda, Echoes of Wisdom, the most underrated, slept-on game of the year. People aren't talking about this game. This is a mainline Legend of Zelda game. It's a top down, of course, but like, damn, this game is so good. I had a blast with it. Echoes of Wisdom did the same thing that Tears of the Kingdom did for 3D Zeldas. It did that for top-down 2D Zeldas. Like it's like we just cracked open the sandbox. We know what a 2D Zelda is. We know what the formula is. We knew the same thing for a 3D Zelda. But Tears of the Kingdom cracked open what that could be. It gave you these crazy powers and it gave you all this like all this amazing sandbox stuff to do. This did that for 2D Zelda, and we're not talking enough about it because this game's pretty incredible. It's you play as Zelda instead of Link, which is a fun little twist. It's got all the charm of Zelda you'd expect. The story is, it's the opposite. It's the Link gets taken and Zelda has to save Link, and there's this fun like alternate reality and this mirror dimension type stuff going on. But the gameplay, the being able to use these echoes, which is literally just like Zelda has this wand and she can find an item and she can duplicate it and she can just use that item in the world. So she has no sword. She can't fight. So an enemy comes to her, she duplicates the enemy, and now that's in my arsenal. I can take a Bokoblin and like I just have one of those guys now. So like the like when you get to a badass enemy in the game, it's like shit, how do I take this thing down? But also like cool, once I beat this, it's gonna be in my arsenal now. It's such a cool, unique gameplay mechanic that I really haven't seen before. Yeah, it's just charming. It's just classic 2D Zelda, and yeah, the echo mechanic is just next level cool. I think not enough people give this game credit because Link's not the star of the game and it's not a 3D Zelda. Like there's just a couple of things going against it where I think it got a little swept under the radar. Yeah, my number 3 easily, like it was close to my number 2 for sure. I think this game deserves everyone's attention.
Definitely the quietest new Zelda game this generation.
No doubt.
And it's a game I really want to go play, based on what you've been saying and how excited you've gotten. That's always contagious. So everything you said there makes me want to go try it for sure.
I think you'd like it a lot. I think it's structured enough for you to really get involved in this one, get invested. Because I know with like Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, it's like those are open games. You kind of have to kind of got to make your own path. You got to figure out yourself, which is like it's tough. It's a tough sell. And if those hooks don't get in you, like you're not inspired to continue going, which I understand that. This game is a little more on rails. I think you'd really vibe with it.
That's great to hear, and that's definitely up my alley. You said too, because I had mentioned I wanted to go back at some point and try Link's Awakening. You said you were recommending this one, which I think maybe a lot of people are in the same boat as I am.
Yeah, it is the modern Link's Awakening. It's a lot less obtuse because it's a 2024, 2025, 2024 developed game, whereas Link's Awakening is a Game Boy game. It's a remake of a literal Game Boy game.
Yeah.
Like some of those puzzles are really, really really tough, like,
Sure.
I'm looking stuff up. Like they're meant to make you get your bang for your buck, and like some of the stuff is just like it's cheap. Like there's like what that was the answer really? Like I've been here for 30 minutes and that's the answer. Like old school games have a lot of that to it, whereas this has all that art style and that charm, but it's modernly developed.
Good to know. That's definitely a game I'm going to play, and perhaps that will be one of the first games I play on my Switch too. We'll see how 2025 goes here. Number 3 on my list, a game that I would definitely have a little bit higher, obviously not much, but I would have higher had I played more of it, and that's just my own fault. But I played almost all 8 or 9 hours of this game on the PTO day that we spent together, which is wild in hindsight. But Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I fell in love with Remake probably about the same time we were both playing that early last year. And then we also played Final Fantasy 16. You and I did, John. So it's been a crazy year and a half really for us for Final Fantasy games. Seeing that previously we had really not been fans of the franchise before just because we never took that dive. But Final Fantasy VII Rebirth improves on so much from an already stellar first game in this trilogy, which is Final Fantasy VII Remake. And I really enjoyed my time with it. Obviously, that is a game I'm going to have to go back and play through this year. But man, if you've never been into Final Fantasy before, don't let any of it hang up for you. The nice thing is these games are all kind of they're all self-contained for the most part, so you can really go into them, and some of them even have drastically different styles. So you can find one that fits for you. But yeah, Rebirth is on my list, and I'm proud to say it.
That's a great transition from your 3 to my 2, because my number 2 is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I'm so happy to see it on your list, even though you didn't get through it and finish it, because like it doesn't really matter. Like the more we talk about video games and like the further we get into like, you know, our adult lives, like it doesn't really matter if you finish it. Like this was my experience with the game. In Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a 60-hour game, and if the first 8 hours of it are worthy of your list, hell yeah, man. Like that game's incredible. But I will say, I think that you're really gonna vibe with the rest of the game. What I say about Rebirth is, man, it is a video game. Like there is just everything you could possibly want from a video game is just baked into this game and done so well. It is an epic, incredible story with amazing set pieces and some of the best. The best production quality when it comes to cutscenes and storytelling, period. Full stop. No one comes close. Like, I'm watching a cutscene in one of the most pivotal moments in the game. I'm like, this is a $100 million cut. Like, this is insane what they put into this stuff with the music and the sound and the visuals. And on top of that, you've got this open world, which with Remake wasn't really an open world. It was pretty linear. This is a full-on, I don't know, Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, whatever you want to call it. It's a full-on open world with tons and tons of stuff to do on the side, and that stuff's rewarding, and it's an RPG, so that stuff really matters if you do it or not. You don't have to. I didn't do most of it. I did, like, I would say I probably did 40 to 60% of everything in every realm. There's like 5 to 6 different like realms, different open areas, and I probably did 40 to 60% of all the stuff in there. So I got a good taste of it, but I didn't do everything. And it's just so satisfying. The different monsters that you can like, there's like this research thing. Like, yeah, every area has like this huge beast you can get, and like it's kind of like this research quest, almost like Pokemon. And you've got this guy like who's giving you all this intel, and if you beat that, you get a specific whatever. No spoilers. And then you go into towns, and there's card games like Queen's Blood, and there's board games like Fort Condor, and these games are like full on, like fully developed, well thought out, like incredible games. I spent so much time playing Queen's Blood, which is an in-game card game. I've heard people talking about this with like The Witcher 3, with what was that one called? Gwent, yes, Gwent. So like, yeah, that came out separately, but yeah, like Queen's Blood is in depth and fun. You build your own decks, like you go to different cities and get different cards, like. The vastness and the variety that this game offers, again, that's all second to how incredible this story and these set pieces are. Like, this is a polished AAA, Uncharted, whatever you want, whatever AAA game you want to throw at it. Like this equals that, and it's all of those other things, and it's all that side stuff. Rebirth, man, it's so special. The fact that it's number 2 on my list, like I did not see that coming. That was like down to the wire. This last game that obviously is at my number 1 was like, yeah, that game resonates with me more than many games have ever resonated with me, and it takes a game like that to dethrone Final Fantasy VII Rebirth for my my game of the year.
It's saying a lot, man. It really is. It gets me excited to even just think about it again. But I'll say I can see big time the appeal of games like this going back. Even to like when we were in high school, you know, if you were able to sink all that time into games on a given day, or you had a whole weekend because you didn't have responsibilities as much, right? Like this is a game that would eat up the clock for me.
It is like the GTA of JRPGs. Like that's what it is. Like there's just so much to do, and it's all fun.
It belongs in the box, man. I'm telling you. That's
the
GTA
a good quote right there. Of JRPGs.
I love that. That's really good. Well, game number 1, man, is this the first time like our number 1 game has lined up with the actual game of the year?
Have you done your 2 yet?
My number 2 is Indiana Jones.
Oh, perfect. That makes sense.
So that's why we're jumping to number 1 here. Astrobot, man.
No, that's not mine.
Actual game of the year for it's your game. It is 100%.
No, it's Star Wars Outlaws. What are you talking about?
No, you're a liar.
Astrobot, man. Come on, you kidding me?
Come here. It's Astrobot. It's a game that we kind of, figured was coming out from Team Asobi ever since the launch of the PS5, and we got the amazing Astro's Playroom. We got a full-blown AAA release of Astro, and it is basically perfect. It is a platformer
it's perfect, dude. It's perfect.
It will go down in history. It will go down as maybe my favorite platformer of all time. And that's saying a lot. There's been many good ones over the years, and typically they stem from Nintendo. But here we are with PlayStation taking the reins. John, you and I, we live streamed for the Game Awards and got very, very excited and emotional to see Astrobot get the praise it deserved. There's always going to be haters out there, right? They come for number one, but man, tell me about Astrobot and why it just has that special place in your heart, if I may put words in your mouth.
Special is the right word, man. That game is special. I've got a thing for 3D platformers. I've got a thing for platformers in general. I would say, like, to its core, platforming is my favorite genre in video games. Like the games that resonate with me most. You're talking about your Marios. You're talking about your Celeste. You're talking about your Cupheads. Like, those are the games outside of story that really, really resonate with me. And to see a Sony first-party studio come up with a platformer that resonates in that way, it's cool, man. And you're gonna hear people try to talk about this game and talk down upon it because of the nostalgia. There's so much PlayStation nostalgia in this game. You're gonna see people try to tear it down and say, "Oh, that's just, people just love this game because of nostalgia." Nope. That plays second fiddle to the gameplay, into just the awe of what this game is. Every single galaxy, which is how the kind of, like, everything's structured. You got nebulas and galaxies. Every galaxy, every nebula, every level has a different gimmick, and they're not afraid to just throw it out the window. You've got all these different gameplay mechanics that just play so well with the DualSense. It's so hard to verbalize what the stuff does, because you got to feel it. You got to play the game, right? Every one of these gimmicks just works so well with the DualSense, and it feels so good, and it plays so well, and it's just there for basically one level. You'll do a thing and you're like, wow, how creative was that? That was so fun. Like, what a good idea. And you'll never see it again. They literally did that for one level, and that happens 15, 20 times throughout the game. You're like, what a cool mechanic. What a fun little thing you figured out. Like, wow, I played a whole level. Like, what a blast that was. Goodbye. Never mind. Here's a new one. Every time. And
crazy.
Right, every single time they do that, you're blown away. The one that just doesn't make any sense is the shrinking one, when the mouse levels. Like,
yeah, oh my gosh.
I think about that on a technical level. To, like, you've got this big level, and you're looking at this whole level in 4K, and all of a sudden you press one button, and you're microscopic, and you have to see the whole level again in this new perspective, also in 4K. Like, what it must have taken to, like, develop that level, and there's a couple of those actually. It doesn't make any sense. It's incredible. You can't play this game for more than 30 seconds and not smile. You're just smiling the whole way around, whether you're just walking around and seeing something fun in the background, or seeing, like, a silly bot off to the side, or, like, you go get this coin up there, and, like, everything is worth the journey in Astrobot. Everything you do, everything you choose to do in this game is worth it. The payoff is always so worth it. The game is just a masterpiece, man. And then again, I talked down upon this because it's not the main selling factor, but damn, that PlayStation nostalgia is so cool. Like, yeah, this is a PlayStation game, and, like, it takes place inside of a PlayStation 5, literally. Just it's a sequel to Astro's Playroom. Like, you are literally in the ship that was the tech demo of Astro's Playroom, and you continue that. You're finding these, like, nostalgic PlayStation characters. Like, it's everything you want. It's incredible gameplay. It's beautiful art style. It's just so creative. And then it is that nostalgia. Everything, man.
Dude, we well said on all fronts there. And, you could love it without knowing any of the PlayStation history there. There's some deep dives. There's stuff I look up and I'm like, I have no idea what that is.
I have no clue.
There's stuff I look up and Tim Talbot has no idea what some of it is. It's wild. But
I think he made up half of them.
He made up half. He definitely was a consultant. If you read the credits for Team Asobi. So it's ridiculous. He goes, yeah, just make up a 17-word game. No one's going to question it. We'll just say it was an import from Japan. Ridiculous. But the PlayStation stuff, man, it leans into it so well. But the difference is the mechanic is first, the nostalgia is second. So you get these specialized levels, right? Like your God of Wars, your Horizons, like those are amazing. And we haven't even talked about the game has been supported with free DLC very nicely post-launch, to the point where it is ripe to do more of these classic PlayStation one-offs. Like, in theory, they could make a Last of Us level if they wanted to, right? Like, all these things are really, really fun. Or you could have a little mini game based around Helldivers. Like, there's so much they could do with it. I want more from it. I'm happy this did so well critically and commercially for what it's worth. Astro is a definite franchise on the next level moving forward for PlayStation. Astro is the mascot that they haven't had since Crash Bandicoot and maybe even Spyro back in the PS1 days. It's just so awesome to see. My wish list item has nothing to do with Astro. It's that Xbox would give us basically a version of this that it's not Astro, right? But it's some sort of platformer that's geared towards Xbox nostalgia because it exists. Whether it's Gears or Halo, Fable, Forza, like you could build a lot of fun around it, and they own a lot of properties now. But I digress. Astrobot is the game of the year. It's my favorite platformer to date, and it's just so much fun. I cannot encourage you enough. If there's one game you buy on your PlayStation 5, that's the one I am recommending to you right now.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that, and it's funny because like. Years ago, I don't know, maybe like the Wii U generation, around that time, we always used to talk about like, man, Nintendo really is the only company left that like has nostalgia going for it. Like Nintendo is the only like company that has roots where like, you know, you do a Mario homage to the OGs Mario Brothers or like Zelda. Like that's really the only company that has that. And slowly PlayStation has gotten there. And it's been really cool to see. They tried with PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, and we're like, that didn't really work. That was a Smash Brothers clone. Like the nostalgia didn't really hit. Like they missed. It was a miss there. It was kind of like more, you know, more fodder for that sentiment that like, yeah, Nintendo really is the only one that has nostalgia on their side. And like that was an argument against Nintendo for a while. Like, yeah, nostalgia is the reason the games are so good, right? We know that's not the case. But PlayStation has finally like clicked into that. It's like, man, PlayStation's been around for 30 years, man. 30 years of PlayStation. And Astrobot really pays off. Like it really kills that nostalgia.
It certainly helps that they've been stewing long enough to be around now. And there's a difference between, you know, when a game like Battle Royale came out, or PlayStation All-Stars, I should say. But I would love another version of that next gen.
Right.
There's enough time, right? Like it would make sense. But it's so good to see. And again, Team Asobi has a franchise on their hands. I would love a small scale one of these every 2 years. Like give me something like that. It's a game you can play in 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours, anything along those lines. And you'd have my money every single time.
And they've talked about that. They've talked about how like they have like a relatively small team and they've got like a realistic target and they can make these games relatively quickly. So like, it's a cool pushback against like what Sony is nowadays, right? Sony is the Last of Us and like, I don't know, Days Gone and Death Stranding, like these games that are like these hyper realistic 30 hours, 20 hours, like $200 million to make, and they take 8 to 10 years to develop in between. Like it's kind of a pushback against that, which is really cool to see within.
Even all these live service games that have been coming out one by one, and we see them canceled. There was the Sony Bend.
Yeah, more so cancel one by one than coming out one by one.
Exactly, and maybe that's part of them learning the lesson here. God of War, we heard, you know, had a game in the works. The Horizon one that's been oft rumored, it sounds like that's been canceled as well. Today, so, I don't wish that upon the studio, but I'm happy to hear that there's enough of a pivot and enough foresight to maybe do that. So, give us more games like Astrobot that are on the small scale, and I think you'll have a lot of happy fans.
I think so too.
But 2024, a good year for gaming. Not the behemoth that was 2023. But most years are not 2023. So we're going to take that with a grain of salt. 2024, a very good overall year. I think 2025 has the potential to be just as good, if not better, with some of the releases that we're talking about. Not to mention the Switch too. And imagine, John, you know, podcasting about this in 5, 6, 7 years, thinking about what this year looks like with all the fun that is ahead, at least I believe. So we'll put a bow on 2024 there. Any closing thoughts on any of the games we mentioned, or anything that you wanted to have on your list, or you thought would be on your list, minus some of the stuff we talked about earlier at all?
Yeah, there's always going to be that. I think the big one for me is Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. That's literally the game that's in my Switch right now physically. I got it for Christmas. I wanted to get to it over the break, but I just didn't. I committed the time to Indiana Jones and Marvel Rivals for the most part. So that game is like, it's right up my alley. I love these platformers. I've grown to really enjoy Metroidvanias. And Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown seems like it's up my alley and probably would have been on this top 5 somewhere if I'd played it. So I'm sure we'll talk about that. I think our goal is to try to get to these, these Busy 6 episodes as often as we can, weekly, bi-weekly, whatever works. But like, we're going to be doing this frequently. I'm sure I will be talking about that game sometime this year. But 2024, man, good year, great year, like legitimately a great year. Like I think the narrative that like it was a down year in video games was only juxtaposed by what 2023 was, like you just said, right?
Yeah.
Like it was an incredible year. There's games for everybody, bangers, like all-time greats, like your Astrobots. Like you've got studios doing stuff, reinventing themselves, like Machine Games did with Indiana Jones. Like phenomenal year. 2024 was. I had a blast.
I mean, John, any year that's not the best year, right? Which I think 2023 could be in gaming,
it's up there.
Is a down year.
We're gonna have that chat soon. We should have that chat soon.
We are. We're gonna talk about which year was the best in gaming. You know, from our humble points of view. So, lots there. I think for me, the one that I'm surprised at the beginning of the year, what I would have bet money would make my list was Hellblade 2. I thought that was cooking for so long that was just about a can't miss. That's expectations that I think were missed for it, but still a fine game, just not what I thought it was going to be. So disappointing. And then I knew I had my Star Wars and my Suicide Squad that were probably not going to end up on the list, but still games I'm gonna play as a fan no matter what. I love Rocksteady. Everyone knows I love Arkham. So we'll see what the future holds, but we'll do a most anticipated list for 2025. It's hard to lock some stuff down without all the lack of dates and even windows that we have right now, but we'll see what happens. In 2 days, we're going to get some news from Xbox, and then within just over 2 months, we're going to get some news from Nintendo and what that window looks like.
Big
so
news.
Lots and lots of good stuff ahead for Busy Sticks in 2025. If you've tuned in tonight live at twitch.tv/thegeekiverse or on youtube.com/thegeekiverse, we really appreciate you. Help us spread the word. As always, you can go to patreon.com/thegeekiverse. Take a look at some of the levels we've got there. That is always appreciated. And then, like John said, we're trying to get back at it here weekly, if not bi-weekly. So lots of fun ahead. We hope you're going to be a part of the fun. For John Fick, I'm Josiah Leroy. This has been our Game of the Year 2024 episode of Busy Sticks. Thank you for joining us. We hope you have a great rest of your week.